Imagine this. You are just on a run, but the Red Man group shows up in the Black Rock Quarry. You then shoot one, possess his mind, and you crush another dude with a shelf. This is Control. I originally wanted to do a journey through this game kind of video. However, by the end I had a total of around, 12 hours of footage that takes up a total of 511 gigabytes on my computer. In the interest of my own sanity, I scrapped that idea. Instead, I'm going to do more of a review/guide kind of thing that will include story, gameplay, and my weird obsession of testing new combat abilities on human waste disposals. So sit back and relax as I tell you about Control. Without the DLC because I didn't record it due to 511 gigabytes of footage on base game. Have you heard of the SCP Foundation? You know, the fictional place that contains abnormal, dangerous objects and creatures in order to prevent the whole world from dying? Control takes that concept and plays with it. The game starts with Jessie being led into the Federal Bureau of Control by a strange entity in her head, then talks to a janitor, goes on an elevator, hears a gunshot, investigates, picks up the murder weapon, gets into a combat tutorial, wins, and then becomes the director of the entire bureau. That sequence of events probably seems strange to you. Oh, don't worry. Things get much stranger. As it turns out, the gun that you picked up is called the service weapon. When you pick it up, you have to go through the application process of becoming the new director. The failure of this application means, well, I think you get the idea. Anyways, after not dying a gruesome death, you run into the Red Man group, whose music makes people insane. You learn later that these men are controlled by the Hiss, an other dimensional entity that wants to take over everything. It also forces you to speak nonsense. The rest of the story is about you saving people, trying to find a way to stop the Hiss, finding and containing objects of power, and trying to find your brother that was kidnapped by the Bureau. Well, that last bit, don't worry about it. You only start to really care about it in the last half of the game. I don't want to say more about the story since I would have to go into spoiler territory as well as the small bits of lore that are contained in collectibles that I may or may not have read. However, if you like paranormal activity, wacky teleporting ducks,
disappearing ducks, great.
Finding the reason why this horror exists, and subduing a refrigerator, this game will be right up your alley. Whether or not you like that kind of story, I think you'll like the part of the game where you get to hit a man with an entire forklift. Let's get to the gameplay. During the game, you'll be doing one of three things: exploration/finding a collectibles/talking to NPCs, solving puzzles, and combat. Exploration in this game is genuinely fun and rewarding. Scattered across the bureau are these crates that give you loot. The loot can be upgrade materials or special mods that you can upgrade your character/gun. More on that later. Aside from those bits, the bureau itself is interesting. Because of the Red Man group tour, the bureau is mostly devoid of sane people. You can go for a run and not see any normal people for an hour or so. So when you do run into other people, it's a major event. Each voice character is interesting and has their own personality. This woman is a major nerd. This guy is just weird. And she is someone who could stop bullets by her intimidating presence alone. While each person is interesting, they're only there for a quest at a time. But you know what I don't find interesting? The puzzles. There are two major forms of puzzles: the box puzzle and the hotel puzzles. The box puzzles are you finding a battery box and then plugging it in. Short, sweet, and necessary to progress while you're traveling in the bureau. Then there are the hotel puzzles. In an action game, where you can catch missiles in the air and throw them, you are forced to go to a hotel to do a 5-minute puzzle to make a bridge appear. Yeah, this kind of puzzle just feels out of place. While the lore of the hotel itself is interesting, it just actively slows you down. I rate the puzzles 5 out of 10. I'll only do them if I have to. Now, let's get to the fun part: combat. For this part, I would like to introduce you to my training dummy, the toilet. Why a toilet? Oh. There are two different tools for combat: your gun and your abilities. The gun has 5 different forms, 6 if you include DLC. These forms are grip, spin, shatter, pierce, and charge. You can only have 2 forms equipped at one time, and you can switch between them. However, you can change your equipped forms at any time. While each form is different, they all rely on one ammo pool. Firing in any form uses this pool. However, when you are not firing, the ammo regenerates. While you're waiting for your gun to recharge, you are free to use your abilities. First, you have launch. Hello, toilet. I would like to introduce you to this. Say hello. Then you have dash, rock wall, levitation, and a superhero landing. If all these abilities fail, you can control people's minds. This particular toilet does not have a mind, so I'll have to settle with this giant orb instead. Never mind that. How about this one? You know what? I had a whole joke in mind, but as that's not gonna work out, replay that footage from the intro of this video. With your gun and your abilities combined, you can get through any combat situation. What you're about to see is some unedited combat that happens about midway through the game. If you want to skip, please, feel free. Sure, the combat can seem a little slow at first. However, one of the main draws of the combat is that you can customize your guns and Jesse based on your playstyle. You do this through mods. Mods can consist of things like increasing the reload speed or increasing the fire rate of a particular form. My personal favorites are damage, damage, and more damage. On top of that, you have personal mods that increase your stats or decrease the energy consumption of abilities. On top of that, you can spend ability points to upgrade your abilities. You get to upgrade in a way that will enhance your particular playstyle, although you may have to change and adapt that playstyle as you go along. At first, I was doing a charge-in playstyle where I, charge in with a shotgun and melee people to death. It worked, until some particular enemies were introduced. I had to change and adapt in order to survive. That takes me to one of the bad aspects of the combat, difficulty scaling. In the beginning with level 1 enemies, I could take a few hits without worrying about health. However, in the late game, I almost have the max health you can upgrade to. It's a pain in the butt. The longer you play, the more careful you have to be. Honestly, I think that Control was one of my favorite games that I've played this year. The script was made in December of last year. If I had to give it a rating, I would give it an 8.5 out of 10. The story, combat, and environment is incredible. Not to mention the visuals of this game are quite beautiful. All of the mystery and extra dimensionalness play into each other wonderfully. Just a few points were docked from some of the puzzles and the difficulty scaling that made me feel like I was punching a brick wall. All in all, if you haven't played it, I definitely recommend you give Control a try. Just remember, be kind to janitors. They may give you a music player that can help you get through an ever-changing maze.